Okay, great. So a very quick appreciation to the Chancellor, Bishop David Oyedepo, for this opportunity and the entire organizing team at ICADI 2020 for inviting me to share on this very important conversation about the development of Africa. As I watched the Chancellor's session this morning, I couldn't but, fall in love with him a bit more, because I haven't really seen him talk on these issues this way. And I just felt like this was the right time for me to eventually connect with him and connect with the Covenant University family and be a part of the amazing work that Covenant University is doing across Nigeria and the entire African sub-region, and also the world. My name is Godbless, to all those who may not have heard my introduction. But my presentation is quite short. And today I will be focusing more on the practical steps found as young people on the continent, and especially from Nigeria, where we launched out. And my topic is youth leadership and governance for a new African landscape. The truth is that we do not have not to create a new leadership structure and a new governance landscape for Africa. If not, we're going to be back here again in 50 years, God forbid, having this kind of conversation. So when I looked at the topic, if you look at what I've written on my subtopic, is real governance is the solution. And young people across the continent are stepping up, and we're taking responsibility. So I'll just go straight right to what I have. So what we're doing as African youths when it comes to youth leadership is, at this moment, starting from 2016, when we started working on the Not Too Young to Run bill, what we have decided to do as young people on the continent is that we are now agonizing. Because what we discovered is that over time, there was so much agony. People were not focused on the issue. Like what Bishop Oyedepo said in his presentation, let us follow what is working and not what is not working. So for us, we knew that agonizing about the Nigeria situation, about the youth exclusion, about the fact that, are young people ready to lead or not, we didn't want to be in that category anymore. So when we came together as young people, Yaga Africa led those conversations then, and they still do till now, working with other stakeholders and partners, we decided to organize, because we knew that the only way that society will change, the only way that we can create the kind of change that society must experience, it is to stop agonizing and start organizing. So we started organizing, and we said we were going to change the Nigerian constitution. We were going to remove the age barrier so that young people at the age of 30 and 35 can run for president. They told us we were aiming too high. They told us that we were dreaming too much, that it was not going to be possible, that, hey, come on, this is still Nigeria. But we came up with a youthful creed, that when they told us that we can't, we responded with a youthful creed that said, yes, we can. And from 2016 and 2017 and 2018, 2017 to be specific, we kept building momentum. We created the Not Too Young to Run movement. We organized from every street to every corner. We organized from every local government to every state. And we lobbied every member of the House of Representatives, the Senate, and we got over 24 houses of assemblies across the 36 states to pass the bill that altered history for the first time. Today, at 35-year-old, you can run for the president of this country, because the people, sadly, who are still here today, who have refused to give the baton to a new generation, were in their prime, 30, 28, and 35, leading this country many years ago. But they are still here and they don't want to leave. So we're not going to agonize about the fact that they don't want to leave. We are now organizing for them to leave peacefully. And how do we do that? We're getting out there and demanding that young people are included, that young people are given the chance, and that we do not have the legal problems of not being able to run because you are not, up to a certain age. So right now we made that history, and we got a lot of people to run in 2019, and I can share those stories and those success stories in the next couple of slides. So what we're doing in terms of youth leadership on the continent, we are organizing and not agonizing. And that is why today we are the largest voice leading the conversation around Electoral Amendment Act. We are demanding that elections are better done. We just don't want to be numbers anymore. We want to be specific stakeholders who have real impact on what should happen. Number two, what we're doing is that in governance itself, because this is what we have found that our research shows that governance is what is missing on the continent. Because when you look at Covenant University and the environment, I have been to Covenant University but twice. The first time I had an engagement with the student affairs department. We were trying to work on a particular project. And the second time, I think there was this big conference and I had to just come in to take a tour of the university to understand the thinking that went into building it. And we saw corporate governance. We saw that the governance of the space was quite different from what you find when you get out of that gate. The reason Africa is suffering today is that there is no governance happening. There is no governance happening. That is why we are building roads that look like it's not for human beings. That is why we are designing streets that don't favor human beings. That is why we don't have platforms, right, that favor human beings, because there is no governance. That is why you can see on Todd Mainland Bridge, a bus will be driving against traffic and they can get home without any repercussion. That is an aberration. It should not happen. A society where there's governance, that cannot happen. So governance is missing. So how do we ensure that we fix governance? For those of us with a clear idea about what governance should be, we are no longer just numbers. We are now running for office in our record numbers. Like I said before, that we stopped agonizing and we started organizing. Look at the screen before you. You have many young people under 30 years who came into state houses of assemblies in 2019 because of the work we did. Spread across the country. We have them 26, 28, 29, below 35, under 30s. And guess what? We are going to increase this number in 2023 in record numbers that this country has never seen. And we've said to people, calm down, just be patient. We will take over this country one election at a time, one House of Assembly at a time, and we will deliver this continent from the hands of the old guards who have refused to let it be. So we're running for office because we want to redefine it. We want to redefine what governance is about. We just don't want people to say, oh, so young people are the highest voting bloc. No, we are the highest representation bloc. That is what we're trying to do. And then on the African landscape, and I think Bishop Oyedepo was saying this would be very, very excited, that he also has young people who are towing his line. And I'll be looking forward to, closely working with him to see those dreams of his come to life. One of the things we're going to do as we try to, repair the African landscape is to redesign our public schools. This is what public schools should look like. It is not the prerogative of the rich. I remember sometime last year I was in Charlottesville in the United States, and I went to a baseball game in a public school. Ladies and gentlemen, that school, the kids pay $0 to go to that school. That school is funded from consumption tax. 2% of consumption tax is what is used to fund that school. And guess what? I didn't even know that that school was built in this same manner, because when I was leaving Nigeria to the US, I wanted to say I needed international partners and some other Africans in diaspora to work with us to see how we can build a school in my community and some of the communities around where I work. And when they saw the school, they said, look, how did you know? I said, because in our imagination, we are not going to be, are bogged down by the pain and the dysfunction that we see. We know what is right. This is Africa that started the first university. It means that we know that we can get this thing done. So these are what we're looking at. When we get into the House, we're pushing this bill right now. We are criminalizing the building of 6-block classrooms. It will now become a crime on the continent, and we're starting from Nigeria, for any public office holder to build 6-block classroom and commission it as a project. That is an aberration. You can't tell me you are building a school that your child cannot go, and you say you are working for the population or for the people. This is what we're looking at. So we're redefining our public schools. Let a kid come here. When they see a volleyball court, a lawn tennis court, a table tennis court, they see a tartan track pitch. What we are doing is that we're preparing our children to overtake the world in Olympics. 8 years' time, we're going to have those boats from our secondary schools. That is how education should be. That is what society must be like. So when we talk about a new African landscape, this is what we're talking about. Wind energy, providing power to power our schools. Solar energy, providing power so that we can fight climate change. Those are the conversations that the new landscape and young leaders on the continent are pushing. And I'm not alone. We have many of us who are ready to do this work. And then we're also building tech platforms for the future of work and civic engagement. So one of the things we're also working on as a group, leading it from Ready to Lead Africa's perspective, is that we're building technological platforms where we can create more civic engagement for young people. It's not just about instant messaging apps and apps that that teach people how to, or that talk about fintech and what have you. No, we also need to take civic engagement technologically. We have to find a way to do it, and that is why we have the Civic Pride program. The Civic Pride program is going to revolutionize the way people engage civic engagement. We're going to tie your benefit to how much of civic work you do in your community. We're going to ensure that scholarships are tied to civic work, because even in the United States, people get scholarship because of the number of time they put in volunteerism. This is one of those platforms that will encourage that. And because we're not waiting, we are building for the future. And we believe, we are confident about this, that we will deliver on these engagements, and we will create a new African landscape where young people are leading and driving change. And then also, we are also committed to constitutional democracy, because we are now the keepers of democracy. Just recently on the 15th and 16th of September, we launched the Keepers of Democracy initiative at Ready to Lead Africa in partnership with the United States government, the U.S. Consulate, and the Presidential Precinct, the James Madison Constitutional Village in Virginia. Because you see, democracy is also dying. When you see the rise of strongmen and populism and the glorification of money politics in Nigeria and vote buying, and the fact that millennials and Gen Zs are not interested in the hard work of democracy, we have a big problem on our hands. So we decided to come together and say, look, we've got to keep democracy, because that is the only system of government that guarantees freedom, human rights, so that we can protest and we will not be killed, so that we can hold the government accountable and not be scared of our lives. That is why a new African landscape is saying that we are committed to constitutional democracy. And let me just say this very brief story. I was at the home of James Madison, the 4th president of the United States. Not a perfect man at all. He kept slaves as well. But there was something instructive about what James Madison said. James Madison said the Constitution, that every man must understand that they are subject to the dictate of the Constitution. That is not constitutional right. That is the social contract. That is what gives everybody a fair chance to justice. though he kept slaves, but the ideal behind the constitutional democracy that they promoted is what today we're all holding globally, to say everybody has a right to the table and everybody has a right to freedom and everybody should be given a chance. So we are keeping democracy, and we are committed because we know that we don't want to be the generation that says, oh, we need to get into office and then we go in there and mess the whole thing up. No, we want to go there respecting the constitution of our country, upholding the dignity of man, and ensuring that we do our part and leave the stage for a new generation and pass the baton immediately your time is over. That is how you keep democracy. That is how you lead in the society. That is what the Constitution says. That is what the social contract says. So a new African landscape has its young people signing up to be keepers of democracy. And as I round this up, African youths are actually saying this: we are ready to lead Africa. I was on TVC a couple of weeks ago, and I was asked, are young people ready to lead the continent? And I said, we're not just ready to lead, but we are the generation to take Africa to the moon. We are the generation to take Africa to Mars. These are the conversations that we must be talking about. It is a shame that over 200 million strong population, Nigeria, we don't have underground rails. Those are the conversations we should be busting the ground open and putting underground rails so that we can fight climate change. We should be talking about how to solidify our institutions so that we can build, safety nets for our people, and not to amass political power that takes us to nowhere. It is an aberration today that with all our intelligence, look at where we are, the poverty capital of the world. Look at what we are doing. We cannot even build, a rail line in Lagos and complete it in 12 years. No, that is not what our generation wants to do. We want to ensure that a new landscape of leadership and governance on the continent is one that is driven by ideology, one that is driven by merit, and one that is driven by a commitment to the idea that ours is to plow and not to plunder Africa, because that is what Ngugi wa Thiong'o said in his now famous work, the green foothill of Africa. So we are ready to lead Africa. And finally, it has been an honor and privilege to be with you all. And my respect again and special appreciation goes to the Chancellor of Covenant University, Bishop David Oyedepo, who also, and I'll say this today, he also shares September 27th with me as, our birthday date for this invite that he's invited me and as well as the ICADI 2020 organizing team. I am so excited about the fact that the conversation about the development of Africa is on the top burner. And listening to the Chancellor today, he's not just talking, he's acting. And that is why, if you're listening, I want to work with you. Our teams want to work with you. And to the organizing team, this is not the end of our engagement. We are ready to take this conversation to every nook and cranny of this continent. Because right now, we're off to Liberia, we're off to Zimbabwe, protesting against the human rights abuses that are happening in those countries. And even here in Nigeria, we're ensuring that we develop this continent and free it from strongmen and promote democracy for future generations. My name is Godbless Otubure. God bless you. Ours is to plow and not to plunder. I'll be looking forward to getting questions where possible. Thank you so much.